The church doors closed behind her with a quiet thud. But to Angela Matthews, it felt like the world itself was sealing her fate. The wedding music swelled, sweet and innocent, completely opposite to the panic rising in her chest. Her lace veil fluttered as she took one trembling step down the aisle, clutching her bouquet like it was the only anchor she had left. She had dreamed of this moment since childhood, walking toward a man she believed she loved, towards a life she imagined would be beautiful. But the moment her eyes met Arthur's, the groom waiting at the altar with a smile too perfect, something deep inside Angela whispered that she was walking towards something else entirely. Something cold, something wrong. She didn't want to believe it. Not until a heavy hand suddenly gripped her arm, and a man in an expensive black suit leaned in close, his voice gravelly and urgent as he whispered, "You're targeted. Pretend I'm your brother." Angela froze. In that split second, the church disappeared. The flowers faded. The music died, and all she felt was her pulse thundering in her ears. The man beside her was someone she had never seen before, a broad-shouldered stranger with piercing gray eyes, wearing a suit that screamed power and danger. His presence alone should have terrified her. But his eyes, firm yet strangely protective, told her he wasn't there to harm her. He was there because something was terribly, unimaginably wrong. She didn't turn her head, but she felt him angle his body in front of her slightly, suddenly shielding her from the crowd as the guests whispered in confusion over his sudden appearance at her side. Angela had spent months planning this wedding. And yet, in this instant, everything she thought she knew cracked open. As they moved slowly up the aisle together, the stranger stayed close, a silent wall between her and the groom. Angela wanted to scream, to collapse, to run, but she forced her steps forward because she felt the man's hands steadying her, guiding her. "Pretend I'm your brother." The words kept echoing in her mind. Her brother had died in a car accident 7 years earlier, and no one had ever been able to fill that void. She had walked through life since then with a quiet, private ache. Yet somehow, next to this stranger, she felt a glimmer of something she hadn't felt in years. Safety. Who was this man? Why did he say she was targeted? And why was Arthur suddenly looking at them with an expression that wasn't confusion, but cold, calculated fury? The stranger's grip tightened. "Keep walking. Smile. You're my baby sister, and I'm finally meeting your groom." His voice was steady, commanding, leaving no room for argument. Angela's mind raced. She glanced sideways at the pews and noticed something that made her blood run cold. 3 men in the back row weren't watching the ceremony. They were watching her. Their hands rested inside their jackets, their expressions blank but focused. They looked like they were waiting for a signal. Her legs nearly gave out. The stranger caught her smoothly, making it look like an affectionate brotherly gesture. "I've got you," he whispered. "Just a few more steps." Arthur stood at the altar, his perfect smile now strained. The officiant looked confused, clutching his Bible uncertainly. The entire church had gone silent, watching this bizarre interruption unfold. "Before I continue, please take a moment to subscribe. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers before my birthday next month, and I'd love your support. Let's hit that goal together. Thanks for subscribing." When they reached the altar, the stranger extended his hand to Arthur with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Arthur Thorne. I'm Stephen Callahan, Angela's older brother. I apologize for my late arrival. Family emergency kept me overseas." Angela's breath caught. Stephen Callahan. That name. She'd heard whispers about a man with that name, a ghost in New York's underworld, a king without a crown, a protector of those who couldn't protect themselves. People said he controlled half the city from the shadows. People said he was untouchable. Arthur's face went pale. Just for a second, Angela saw a raw terror flash across his features before he recovered. "Brother?" Angela never mentioned. "We're estranged." Stephen cut him off smoothly, still gripping Arthur's hand in what looked like a friendly handshake, but was clearly something else. Arthur winced. "But family is family. And I wouldn't miss my baby sister's wedding for anything. Especially not to a man as successful as you." The way Stephen said successful made it sound like an accusation. Arthur pulled his hand back, flexing his fingers. Of course. Welcome. His voice was tight, strained. Shall we continue with the ceremony? Stephen turned to Angela, his eyes boring into hers. Actually, I need a moment alone with my sister. Pre-wedding jitters, you understand. Just 5 minutes. Before Arthur could protest, Stephen guided Angela firmly down a side aisle toward a small vestibule. The 3 men in the back row shifted, standing up. Stephen made a subtle gesture with his left hand, so quick Angela almost missed it, and suddenly 2 more men appeared from the opposite side of the church, blocking the aisle. The vestibule door closed behind them with a heavy click. Angela spun to face Stephen, her veil tangling around her shoulders.
Who are you?
What is happening? Stephen's expression shifted from public performance to deadly serious in an instant. Your fiancé isn't who you think he is. Arthur Thorne is a con artist, Angela. He's bankrupt, desperate, and he's sold you. The words hit her like physical blows. Sold me? That's insane. Those 3 men in the back? They work for Vincenzo Marsetti, a human trafficker with connections in Eastern Europe. Arthur owes Vincenzo $2 million. Stephen pulled out his phone, swiping through photos. He promised Vincenzo something valuable to clear his debt. That something is you. Angela stared at the screen. Photos of Arthur meeting with a man in a velvet jacket. Bank statements showing massive debts. Text messages discussing a high-value asset being delivered at a public event for maximum compliance. Her stomach lurched.
No.
No, Arthur loves me. Arthur has done this before. Stephen's voice was hard, unforgiving. 3 years ago, he targeted a woman named Caroline Webb. She disappeared during her engagement party. Her body was never found. He showed her another photo. Caroline looked like you. Same build, same coloring, same family background. Angela's hands started shaking. The bouquet fell to the floor. Stephen continued, relentless. Arthur has been isolating you for months. He convinced you to cut off your friends, didn't he? He had you invest your inheritance in his company, which doesn't actually exist. He's been grooming you, Angela. Preparing you. Today was supposed to be the handoff. She thought back over the past year. Arthur's gentle insistence that her college friends were toxic. His disappointment when she wanted to help her mother with medical bills. His elaborate excuses for why she couldn't meet his family. His control over every aspect of her social calendar. She'd thought it was love. She'd been so desperate for stability after years of struggling alone that she'd ignored every red flag. Why? Her voice broke. Why me? Your father worked for a defense contractor before he died. He had access to classified encryption algorithms worth millions on the black market. Arthur thinks you have the access codes. Vincenzo wants them. And after they get what they want. Stephen's expression darkened. You become disposable. Angela felt the floor tilt beneath her. I don't have any codes. I don't know anything about my father's work. I know, but they don't. Stephen gripped her shoulders. Listen to me carefully. We have maybe 3 minutes before Arthur realizes something's wrong, and those men move in. I need you to trust me. Why should I trust you? You're a criminal. Because my sister fell for a man exactly like Arthur. Stephen's voice cracked, just slightly. Her name was Sophia. She was smart, kind, and believed in the wrong person. I was overseas, working, building my empire. By the time I realized what was happening, she was gone. I found her 3 weeks later in a shipping container bound for Istanbul. Angela's eyes filled with tears. Did you save her? Stephen's silence was answer enough. I spent 10 years hunting the men responsible, he continued. And I've spent the last 5 years watching for patterns, stopping this from happening to other women. When I saw Arthur's name connected to Vincenzo, I started investigating. When I realized you were the target, I knew I had one chance to do what I failed to do for Sophia. He looked at her with an intensity that was almost painful. You're not walking down that aisle, Angela. You're not becoming another statistic. Not on my watch. A sharp knock on the door made them both jump. Arthur's voice came through, smooth but with an edge. Angela? Sweetheart? Is everything all right? Stephen, I think we should continue. The guests are getting concerned. Stephen put a finger to his lips, then typed rapidly on his phone. Angela watched as he sent a single word to someone. Now. We're coming out, Stephen called back. Then, to Angela. When we leave this room, you stay beside me. No matter what happens, you don't leave my side. Understood? Angela nodded, her whole body trembling. Stephen straightened his tie, then opened the door. Arthur stood there, but he wasn't alone. The three men from the back row had moved closer, forming a semicircle. Their jackets were open now, revealing shoulder holsters. Arthur's perfect mask had slipped completely. His smile was gone, replaced by something cold and hungry. I think we've had enough family time, don't you, Stephen? Actually, we're just getting started. Stephen's voice was steel. Arthur's eyes narrowed. You're making a mistake, Callahan. This doesn't concern you. The moment you targeted an innocent woman, it concerned me. Innocent. Arthur laughed. A harsh, ugly sound. Angela isn't innocent. She's a means to an end. A very profitable end. He looked at her and Angela saw the truth in his eyes. She'd never been a person to him. She'd been a transaction. Angela, come here, Arthur ordered, extending his hand. She didn't move. Arthur's expression hardened. Angela.
Now.
She's not going anywhere with you. Stephen shifted, placing himself between them. One of the three men reached for his gun. But Stephen was faster. He whistled, sharp and piercing, and suddenly the church erupted into controlled chaos. The side doors burst open and 6 men in black suits flooded in, moving with military precision. They weren't there to hurt anyone. They were there to contain. Within seconds, Vincenzo's 3 men were disarmed and restrained, their weapons clattering to the marble floor. The wedding guests screamed, scrambling from the pews. The officiant dropped his Bible and dove behind the altar. Arthur backed away, his face twisted in rage and panic. You have no idea what you've done. Vincenzo will. Vincenzo is currently being arrested by the FBI. Stephen's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. I've been feeding them information on his trafficking network for 6 months. This wedding was the final piece of evidence they needed, a public transaction with witnesses. As if on cue, federal agents in marked vests stormed through the main entrance, weapons drawn. Arthur Thorne, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit human trafficking, fraud, and accessory to murder, the lead agent announced. Arthur's face went from red to white. He lunged toward Angela, desperation making him reckless. You bitch. You set me up. He never finished. Stephen moved with frightening speed, intercepting Arthur mid-lunge and slamming him face-first into the nearest pew. That's my sister you're talking to, Stephen said quietly. Show some respect. The agents pulled Arthur up, snapping handcuffs around his wrists. As they dragged him toward the exit, Arthur looked back at Angela one last time. I loved you, he spat. No, Angela said, her voice steady for the first time. You never did. The church emptied quickly after that. The guests were questioned briefly by the FBI, then released. Angela's mother appeared from somewhere in the chaos, sobbing and pulling Angela into a crushing embrace. I never liked him, her mother kept saying through her tears. I never liked him, but you seemed so happy, and I thought I was just being paranoid. Mom, it's okay, Angela whispered, even though it wasn't. Nothing was okay. Stephen stood a respectful distance away, talking quietly with the lead FBI agent. Angela watched him, this stranger who'd saved her life, and felt a confusing mix of gratitude, shock, and something deeper she couldn't name. When the agent walked away, Stephen approached Angela and her mother. Mrs. Matthews, he said gently, I'm sorry I had to crash your daughter's wedding like this. Angela's mother looked at him with tears streaming down her face. Then she hugged him. Stephen went rigid with surprise, his arms hovering awkwardly before he gently patted her back. You saved my baby, Mrs. Matthews sobbed. You saved my baby girl. Stephen's expression softened. She deserves better than what he was planning. Hours later, after the police interviews, after the shock, after the tears, Angela found herself sitting on a bench outside the church in her wedding dress, watching the sun set over the city. Stephen sat down beside her, still in his suit but with his tie loosened and his jacket gone. "How did you know?" Angela asked quietly. "About me, I mean. How did you find out in time?" Stephen was silent for a long moment. "I have people who monitor certain patterns. Financial records, social media, relationship dynamics. When I saw Arthur's name pop up again, connected to someone who matched Sophia's profile, I couldn't ignore it." "You've been watching me for months." "Yes." "That should probably creep me out." Stephen smiled slightly. "Probably." Angela looked at him. "Why did you say you were my brother? You could have just warned me or called the police, or—" "Because predators like Arthur rely on isolation," Stephen interrupted. "He'd spent a year making sure you had no one to turn to. If a stranger had warned you, you might not have believed it. You might have told Arthur, and he would have moved up his timeline."
But a brother?
Someone with authority, with family claim, that disrupts the entire dynamic. It gives you instant protection and him instant doubt. It was psychological warfare. It was survival strategy. Angela pulled her veil off, letting it fall to the ground. "I was so stupid. All the signs were there and I wanted so badly for it to be real." "That doesn't make you stupid. It makes you human." Stephen looked at her seriously. Sophia wasn't stupid either. She was lonely, grieving our parents, and desperate for connection. Arthur, and men like him, are experts at finding vulnerable people and exploiting their needs. That's not your fault. But I ignored my gut. Every time something felt wrong, I talked myself out of it. Now you know better. Now you know to trust that instinct. Stephen stood up, offering her his hand. "Come on, I'll take you home." Angela took his hand and let him pull her to her feet. "Stephen, what happened to the man who took your sister?" Stephen's expression went cold and distant. "He doesn't exist anymore." Angela didn't ask for clarification. She didn't think she wanted to know. Over the next few weeks, Angela's life slowly began to rebuild. The FBI's case against Arthur and Vincenzo was airtight. Dozens of women came forward with similar stories, patterns of manipulation and attempted trafficking. Arthur was facing life in prison. Vincenzo's entire network was dismantled. Angela moved back in with her mother temporarily, reconnected with the friends she'd abandoned, and started therapy to process the trauma of nearly being sold into slavery by the man she'd planned to marry. Stephen checked in regularly. At first through his people, anonymous deliveries of groceries, quiet security watching her mother's house. Then slowly in person. He'd show up unannounced, always respectful, always careful to give her space. They'd have coffee. They'd talk about nothing important. He never pushed, never demanded anything from her. "You know," Angela said one afternoon as they sat in her mother's garden, "you're nothing like I expected a mafia boss to be." Stephen raised an eyebrow. "What did you expect?" "I don't know. More violent? More intimidating? More obviously criminal?" "I'm plenty violent when I need to be." Stephen's voice was matter-of-fact. "But violence is a tool, not a personality. The truly dangerous people are the ones who look harmless. Like Arthur." "Fair point." Angela was quiet for a moment. "Why do you keep coming back?" "I'm safe now. Arthur's in prison. Vincenzo's network is gone. You did your job." Stephen looked at her, and for the first time, Angela saw vulnerability in his eyes. "Because when I walk away, when I stop checking on you, I lose the last connection I have to making things right. Every time I see you safe, rebuilding your life, choosing your own path, it's proof that I didn't fail completely. That Sophia's death wasn't meaningless." Angela's throat tightened. "Stephen, you didn't fail Sophia. You were trying to build a life. I was building an empire while my sister was being destroyed. I chose power over family."
His voice was raw.
"I live with that every day." "Then stop punishing yourself by staying alone." Angela reached over and took his hand. "You saved me. You've saved others. You can't undo the past, but you can choose what you do with the future." Stephen looked down at their joined hands, his expression unreadable. 3 months later, Angela attended her first support group for survivors of relationship abuse and trafficking attempts. She was terrified walking in, convinced she'd be judged for being stupid enough to fall for Arthur's lies. Instead, she found 12 other women with eerily similar stories. Different cities, different cons, but the same pattern of isolation, manipulation, and near destruction. When it was her turn to share, Angela told her story. And when she got to the part about Stephen, about a stranger stepping in and risking everything to save her, one of the other women started crying. "I wish someone had done that for me," the woman said. "I wish someone had cared enough to notice." "Someone did notice," Angela said gently. "That's why you're here now. You saved yourself." After the meeting, the facilitator pulled Angela aside. "You have a gift for this. Have you considered speaking more publicly? Your story could help a lot of women recognize warning signs." Angela thought about it. The idea terrified her.
But it also felt right.
She called Stephen that night. "I want to do something. Something that matters." "What did you have in mind?" "I want to start a foundation. To educate women about manipulation tactics, to provide resources for people trying to leave dangerous relationships, to create a network that watches for predators like Arthur." She paused. "I want to do what you've been doing, but legally and publicly." Stephen was quiet for a long moment. "That's ambitious. And dangerous. Men like Arthur don't like being exposed." "I know. That's why I need a partner. Someone who understands both the criminal world and the protection side." Angela took a breath. "Will you help me?" "Angela. Not as my savior. Not as my protector. As my brother. My partner. My family." Her voice was firm. "You said chosen family is the strongest shield. So let's build one. Together." Stephen's laugh was soft, almost disbelieving. "You know I'm a criminal, right? My involvement could actually hurt your credibility. You're a criminal who's saved more lives than most legitimate organizations."
I think we can work with that.
Angela smiled. "Besides, every good foundation needs someone who knows how to navigate the darkness. I'll handle the light. You handle the shadows. We'll meet in the middle." "You're serious about this?" "Completely." Another long silence.
Then, okay.
"Let's do it." 6 months later, the Angela Matthews Foundation for Safe Relationships officially launched. The organization provided free counseling, legal assistance, and emergency housing for people escaping abusive or dangerous relationships. They also ran educational programs, teaching people how to recognize manipulation tactics. Stephen worked behind the scenes, using his connections to identify potential predators and quietly interfere with their plans. The FBI eventually approached the foundation with an unofficial partnership. Stephen would feed them information, and they'd look the other way at certain aspects of his methods. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't always clean. But it worked. Angela threw herself into the work with the passion of someone who'd been given a second chance at life. She spoke at colleges, wrote articles, appeared on podcasts. She became the face of a movement to make predatory behavior unacceptable and obvious. And Stephen became the silent force behind it all, the brother she'd never had, the family she'd chosen, the protector who taught her that safety doesn't come from avoiding danger, but from knowing how to face it. 1 year after the wedding that never happened, Angela organized a fundraising gala for the foundation. The venue was the same ballroom where Arthur had planned to hand her over to Vincenzo. She'd chosen it deliberately, taking back the space, rewriting the memory. Stephen stood beside her as guests filled the room, survivors, supporters, activists, and several FBI agents in formal wear. "How do you feel?" Stephen asked quietly. Angela looked around the room, at all the people who'd come together to fight the kind of evil that had almost destroyed her. "I feel powerful. I feel purpose. I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." "Good." Stephen smiled, and it was genuine, reaching his eyes in a way it rarely did. "Sophia would have liked you. I wish I could have known her." "You do know her. You're living the life she never got to live. That's the greatest honor you could give her." Angela looked at him, this complicated, dangerous, beautiful man who'd crashed her wedding and changed her entire world. Thank you, Stephen, for everything. Thank you for letting me be part of your family. She hugged him, and this time he didn't hesitate. He hugged her back, holding on like she was precious, like she was worth protecting, like she was everything Sophia should have been given the chance to be. Chosen family. Unexpected heroes. Second chances. The gala was nearly over when Angela noticed a young woman standing alone near the exit, looking lost and scared. She wore an engagement ring that looked expensive, and her date, a smooth, charming man in an expensive suit, was across the room, talking intensely with someone on his phone. Something about the woman's posture, the way she kept glancing at her fiancé with a mixture of love and fear, made Angela's instinct scream. She walked over. Hi, I'm Angela. This is my foundation's event. Are you enjoying yourself? The woman smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Yes, thank you. Your story it's incredible. I can't imagine going through something like that. I hope you never have to. Angela paused. Can I ask you something? And please know you can be honest with me. Do you feel safe in your relationship? The woman's smile faltered. Of course. Why would you? Because I've seen that look before. In the mirror. Every day for a year before my wedding. Angela kept her voice gentle. And because your fiancé has been watching you like a handler watching an asset for the past 20 minutes. Tears welled in the woman's eyes. I can't. You can. Whatever you need, a place to stay, legal help, someone to talk to, we have resources. You're not alone. Angela handed her a card. This has my personal number on it.
Call me anytime.
Day or night. The woman clutched the card like a lifeline. He said I'm paranoid. That I'm imagining things. That he loves me. Maybe he does. But love doesn't isolate. Love doesn't control. And love doesn't make you feel like you're walking on eggshells in your own life. Angela looked at her seriously. Trust your gut. It's trying to protect you. The woman's fiancé was walking back toward them now, his expression shifting from business to charming concern. Sweetheart, who's your new friend? Angela extended her hand. Angela Matthews. I run this foundation. Your fiancé was just telling me about your upcoming wedding. Congratulations. The man's handshake was firm, his smile perfect. But Angela saw it, the quick flash of assessment, the micro-expression of calculation. She'd seen it before. In Arthur's eyes. After they walked away, Stephen appeared at her side. You saw it too.
Yeah.
Want me to look into him? Angela watched the couple disappear into the crowd.
Please.
And if you find anything, you'll be the first to know. Because that's what family did. They protected each other. They watched for danger. They refused to let predators win. 2 weeks later, the woman called. She'd found evidence that her fiancé had been married twice before. Both wives had disappeared under suspicious circumstances. She'd confronted him, and he'd become violent. The foundation got her into a safe house. Stephen's people made sure her fiancé was investigated thoroughly. The authorities found enough evidence to arrest him for fraud and assault. Another predator stopped. Another life saved. Angela sat in her office late one night, looking at photos on her wall. All the women the foundation had helped. All the survivors who'd found safety and strength. Her phone buzzed. A text from Stephen. Sophia's birthday today. Lit a candle for her. And one for you. Angela smiled, tears blurring her vision. She texted back. She raised an amazing brother. I'm honored to be his sister. Stephen's response was immediate. The honor is mine. Same time tomorrow for coffee? Wouldn't miss it. Angela turned off the lights and locked up, stepping out into the cool evening air. The city stretched out before her, full of danger and beauty, predators and protectors, darkness and light. She'd almost been destroyed by this city. Instead, she'd become one of its fiercest defenders. All because a stranger had whispered in her ear at the worst possible moment. You're targeted. Pretend I'm your brother. And in pretending, they'd made it real. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers before Christmas, and I'd love your support. Let's prove that stories about real courage and chosen family matter. Thanks for watching, and remember, always trust your gut. It's trying to save your life.